Here we go.
Can you talk a little bit about Saquon Barkley, the blocker for you, and how he impacts your schemes up there?
I'd love to, but we haven't been involved with, a lot of the stuff we've been doing has been, individual work, and it hasn't been, the team stuff. We haven't done that. So that's hard to assess. But I know in his past, he's been excellent.
How about Mekhi Becton? He's come in here kind of as what's perceived as a depth piece. What have you seen from Mekhi early on here? And there's been talk about maybe trying him at guard. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I can answer that because I've been working with him every day and really impressed with his football IQ, his intelligence, his versatility. I didn't realize he was able to play other positions. So that in itself is just to have that swing value and the willingness to want to do it. He's a fun guy to coach. He loves football.
Stout, how did Tyler Steen accept last year when you had him starting and then you went back to Sua? And how has that kind of fueled him now this offseason to win that job?
I love Jeff McClain. Right now he's on the track to be. I really like what he's doing. I really like his the stuff. I know again it's individual stuff, but it's we demand quickness, effort, straining. I've seen a definite improvement in his strength and his power, in his quickness, his ability to play with low hips. I thought he played high last year. I think he's put a lot of time into the weight room with our people here because I could see it.
Were those things that you kind of pinpointed with him at the end of the last season?
We always do that. Nick does that too. Like he's doing that. That's what we do, especially when we have exit meetings. You're just going to exit meeting and just say, "Hey, you have a good time." I mean, you're going to here's some things that I have pinpointed and you need to get better at. And they're not new things. They're things that we have said in meetings before. And they're like, "Oh yeah, there it goes again. It must be an issue. I must have to do something about this." And then you tell them exactly what you need. Here's what you should be doing. Here's how you go about getting better at it. So,
how do you frame the coaching around Cam Jurgens at center? What is he there? What are his strengths?
Say that again, please.
As a center, what are his strengths that you see there for him and kind of transitioning into a new player?
Yeah, I think Cam Jurgens was brought here 2 years ago for the reason of when Kelsey does retire, that we have a guy who we really identified as being a top-level center, in our opinion. And when you look at those things, many of you guys have heard me talk about critical factors. So each position has a list of these factors. And for me, that's everything. I'm not deviating from that. I know I've done this for 40-something years now. All the good players that I've ever coached have the same things. And I'm like, well, why don't you just build a list of these factors and then go by that in terms of when you're evaluating players. And Cam just so happened to have a lot of the check a lot of the boxes of foot and body quickness. He's powerful. He's got great core strength. He's got the ability to communicate to the core, and so when we moved him to guard, and a lot of you guys asked me this last year, I wasn't sure if he was be able to, because we weren't evaluating him for that spot. I was real impressed with the job that he did there, to be honest with you, his physicality and all that. So it's perfect timing for him and I think actually I know somebody's probably want to ask, hey, how did that help him playing next to Kelsey? That's the question. How great that was for him to actually be on the field and playing in games, hearing what Kelsey's saying and how he's saying it, and be right there next to him. I think that was tremendous help.
Stout, you had
practices been like? What have practices and meetings been like so far without Jason Kelsey? How much of an adjustment is that for you? How strange is that for you?
I mean, obviously Jason Kelsey brought a lot to the table in every facet on the field and the meetings. These players, though, there's a culture here. It's been here for a long time. And I'm very fortunate to have coached the players that I've coached because they kind of set the groundwork here. Not just Jason Kelsey, but a lot of the other guys that have been here. And so I think that when a player sees the veteran leadership like Jason Kelsey, they know their place. And I think when Jason decided that, you know what, this is the time, the perfect time for me, I think the minds of some of the other players, it was like, okay, I knew my place then, but now I know my place. It's time for me to step up. It's time for me to become a leader. And I see that. And I think that's your question. I see that amongst several of the players, the older guys.
It's our first time speaking with you since his speech. We saw you back there. What sentiments did you have or emotions did you have about the way he described the role you've had in his life and in his career?
Well, when you're with people like as long as you got to realize the amount of time we put in together. I mean, it's just in a roundabout way, it's kind of sad. We spend way more time here with these guys than we do with our own families. Way more time. And you go through emotional times, you argue, you have, like, it's like they're your family. These guys are your family. And we put so much time in together and had so much fun, really, because the way I do it with the players, and I'm not saying I'm the only, I'm sure other people do this too, but I just want the players to be a little more engaged, like dive in deep and become vested. And so what I try to do is I'd say, Zach, what's your idea for a scheme against this team, knowing the way they play 4 down or 5 down, or their penetrators or their readers? What would one of your play? And you'd be like, oh, I like to run. And so then you would draw it up and you'd talk about it as a group. And the next thing you know, we've built a concept. And we run that play in that game. Whoa, holy cow. Now you got players fighting for ideas. And it's really fun. And Kelsey, when something like that, for him, he could be creative because he's so creative. His mind is all football and it's angles. And it was fun. It was great. And I was very happy for him, but also very sad because I feel like I lost a very close friend and a partner in this whole process. But very happy for him because it was perfect timing and he maximized. That guy, holy smokes, you talk about not leaving anything on the table. He gave everything he had, mentally, physically. I don't know what else you can ask for in a player. That's all anybody in Philly wants.
What role will he have this year?
Oh, I don't know that yet. I think we have to decide. He's got a lot of stuff going on, so I think we have to figure that out.
But he's welcome to come in that room.
Oh, God, Nick. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Room and
We made it very clear. I made that, yeah, Nick, I talked to Nick about it and made it very clear to him. You know.
He's obviously spoken so glowingly about how you helped his career, but having come here and him already being here, how much did he help you in your transition to the NFL?
A great deal. I mean, not only him, but a lot of the other players, you know, Todd Herman, Jason Peters, a lot of these guys, I learned a lot from the players. The players are the ones playing the game. What do you see? How do you handle this? And I think when players, when you relate to them and you speak to them in that manner, they respect that, they appreciate that, and you actually listen. I don't just pretend. I mean, I really want to know. And yeah, but I think to hear the way other coaches had their time to coach with him, Coach Mudd, you know, a lot of the things that we would talk about, everything, all kinds of stuff. And when you let the players have that opportunity, I think it's good. It's good for everybody.
What have you noticed about Lane in Kelsey's absence?
Right away, I saw him working with the young players. Right away, as soon as everybody got back, I saw him, like, that was a little, not that he's not done that before, but I mean a little more and consistently.
Do you see Jordan becoming a natural leader of this offensive line?
I think we got a lot of players like that. Landon Dickerson has got it in his bloodstream. He's always been that way. Jordan is, yeah, I do, but it's unique. It's different. It's a different approach. I think it's who he is. He's a happy guy. He's having fun, but yet leading. Players like that. They like that type of communication.
Critical factors for.
You got a couple of day 3 picks, sorry, Brooks. Trevor, Dylan, when you get a day 3 pick like that, is there some trait you focus on, something you want to build on, something you see?
Yeah, the traits are the critical factors, and when there's players that are there at that part of the draft, and they're still checking some of the boxes that are on there. That's unique. And we have draft meetings, and we go through all the guys. It takes. You can't imagine the amount of time that's put in Howie and the staff, and then they bring us in to collaborate and to put our thoughts into it. And that's what I love about it here is everybody has it's not like you just do all this work and then you don't ever get a chance to express yourself or, explain what your feelings are about a particular individual. So.
The critical factors with, Cam Jurgens going to guard, you're wondering about that for him with Tyler Steen. Does he fit that more in guard? And
Yes.
Then what way?
He's a bigger body. He's a bigger, I always look at, Brandon Brooks to me is that is the person, that's who you're looking for. Ain't many of them around. That's who you're looking for. Size, length of arms, explosive power, all these things, lower body flex, all these things are all into one. And it's holy cow, how do you find these? And so you're always comparing everybody, in my mind, I'm comparing them to him. How do they, he has a little bit of that, a lot of that actually. Tyler does.
A couple more, please.
We've had competitions here where in training camp it's one day on, one day off for the first team player. You've had competitions where it's just kind of based on tape where you kept the guy with the first team all along. What's your approach this summer for how you'll handle right guard?
Well, until somebody surfaces where there's I would like. Doesn't this make sense to have the five? I call them the 5-wheel drive. To have the guys together as much and as many reps as possible so they could synchronize everything. And it's hard when you're rotating people in and out and trying to get that certain it factor. So for me, I try really hard. Unless there's something that tells me, no, you better get a good look at this, or you might be making a mistake or something Otherwise, I'm let's go.
Jeff, you've been around through a lot of.
We'll take both of you guys. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Is there an offensive tackle that you kind of compare prospects to in the same way that you mentioned about Brandon Brooks at guard?
Yeah, look, I've said this before. I used to teach the players at Syracuse, Michigan State, Miami, and Alabama. I had videotapes that I would get from Coach McNally, who was at Buffalo at the time when Jason Peters came into the league, and I studied all this film. So I used to teach the tackles off of that film, and I used to show them set lines, the use of hands, on Jason Peters. And I was this is the prototypical, got it all, power, quickness. Lane is in his own way, he's an elite, little different size, dimension and all, but quick, athletic. So, yeah, I would always, you're looking for that type of, and now Lane's come into his own, that's a different, so you get someone in that mode, you're looking at it closely also. But, yeah, that was who I always tried to replicate or look for in terms of how does he compare to that.
I was going to ask you, you've obviously been around a while and have worked with various offensive coordinators under various head coaches, all of them offensive-minded. But how has this process with Callan been unique?
Been unique?
Him and the process of
I knew that question would be. So in a way, so what I do when you ask questions like this, Jeff, is I blink and I just go, well, what comes to your mind right now? Like, I'm not prepared for anything. Like, so I would say that the uniqueness about the whole thing is his ability to, like I do with the players about building concepts and all, to be able to take everybody's ideas and thoughts and like mix it all together. It's not just one. And I think that the coaches, all the people that are involved, feel good about that. To be able to express yourself, and here's why I like what, and you give them the why, and then, oh, okay. And I think that's what the uniqueness is, where everyone's able to express their thoughts, their ideas, what's good or what's bad. And you don't feel like, you can speak your mind and not have to worry about or feel like you're, being, saying something bad or whatever.
I mean, you tweeted about Brazil and the significance of that game for you. Can you kind of explain why that's so important to you, that Brazil game?
Well, it's not that any game's important to me, but we just so happened my son got married last summer, and he married a young lady from São Paulo right there. So I just found it unique that we were going right after the wedding. We were going to end up going, and all her family, there's many of them, they all wear Eagle stuff. So they've been wearing it for way before the game was announced. So I just found that unique, and I thought that would be something nice for their family to see and embrace.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Mike, can you tell us how it came together, you coming to the Eagles?
Once we went through the transition part in Seattle, my agent and I started receiving some calls and things like that, and you kind of look over the landscape, and you want to just be. For me, it was being clear. I want to go to a place that was a sound organization. That obviously winning was very important. They were always going to have a competitive roster, and obviously I'm a Northeast guy, so a lot of things lined up correctly. And then obviously being familiar with a lot of guys on the staff, obviously with Vic, and I worked with Stoutland and Panunzio in Miami back in the day, so there were some connections here that was very familiar for me.
That connection to Vic, you've coached in different types of defense, 3-4-4-3. How do you blend what you've had experience for going forward, and what's the expectation here with that?
Throughout your career, like you said, being in various systems and whatnot, there's always some parts of it, a lot of parts that have carryover. So obviously working with him previously and taking a lot of things from him when we worked together in Chicago for 2 years was pretty cool. And then to be able to recalibrate back together has been really fun so far as we've gotten back into it and being around him. And there's some things obviously that, change along the way, but for the most part, the foundation of it has been the same.
Where do you start when you come into a new team? What's your starting point? What do you do first to kind of get going?
First thing is just learn the culture of the building, see how everything operates, learn Nick, learn Howie, Mr. Laurie, and to see how things are done and how they operate here, because you want to fit in. Obviously, like I said, it's been a successful place, so you don't need to come in and try to, it'd be crazy if I came in and try to impose my personality and things like that. The biggest thing is fitting in, and then obviously do my part is, helping those young guys develop inside. So that's really what the transition's been like for me so far.
In the pre-draft process in Seattle, how well did you get to know Jalen Carter? And in the month or so you've been working with him here, what has stood out since then?
I spent a lot of time. Really the big thing was he and Spoon were the two guys that were the big discussion there for us, and loved both players and thought the world of both of them. But I spent a lot of time getting to know him and learning him, and it was always a tough one, when those decisions are made. And I think both of them have unbelievable talent and ability and have bright futures ahead of them. So it's been pretty cool learning him then and again the opportunity to coach him now. And he's maturing, coming along. I've been really pleased with the development so far through the offseason program.
Was he the same or different than maybe what you expected getting to know him in the pre-draft?
I would say this. He's almost a year into it, so naturally, guys are going to continue to mature. They learn their way around the NFL. He had obviously the benefit of being around two great vets, with Fletch and B. Graham, and So he's learned and grown since obviously the first time I was spent time with him at the combine process, and he had all the other things that he had to answer questions for. But he's been really good, and he's continued to grow and mature. So again, just it's been a pleasure to coach him.
How you want your defensive linemen to play? How do you balance aggression versus gap responsibility?
I mean, there's always aggression, but there's having an awareness. A lot of times when it comes to gap responsibility and whatnot, is obviously some pre-snap awareness things, formationally, backfield set, situations. Obviously, when you get in a game plan in a team, there's certain things that you can have an anticipation for before the play even starts. So we always want to keep an aggressive mindset. That part will never change. But the responsibility part, we can handle that based off just preparation going into a game.
What do you think Jordan Davis needs to do to take the next step in his development?
The number one thing for him is just being in the best shape that he possibly can be in. And he's taken huge strides with that this offseason. And it's still always, it's a work in progress, but he's off to a really, really good start. If he's in great condition and he can play all out to, not using bad language, but to the wall, if you get my drift on that, then he's going to be a hard guy to block. He's a huge man, long arms, strong. He can get up and down and make tackles in the tackle box. The number one thing for him is conditioning. Can he be in great shape? And we're off to a nice start with that.
The tackle group is pretty young.
And Jordan Davis, we've got two guys like that. How does that open up things creatively and what you can do on the defense front?
I love it because they're both young. Still they're in the molding phase. They're still being developed and coming along with their game and run game and pass rush. And what's been really good is them looking to go and take the leadership role. You don't replace a guy like Fletcher Cox, but they're doing their very best to try to go and step out to the forefront and bring everybody together. So it's been really cool from that dynamic, but help them understand how it is to lead. And if you are going to be a leader, how you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard if you're going to do that for the other guys in the room, with being early, being attentive, and all the details that come along with that. So that part's been fun to do with this group, with it being such a young group as it is.
As far as Williams goes, he kind of gets a little overlooked sometimes. He's probably the veteran in that defensive tackle.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him so far? What do you like about him?
It's amazing. Yeah, he is the elder statesman in the room, and he just turned 25 the other day. So he's Milton's been unbelievable. His work ethic and attention to detail, asks a ton of questions. I love that part about him. I tell him all the time, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask it. It's just you're learning the game and still maturing. I think he has a very bright future in front of him. He does get overlooked a little bit, but he's definitely valued here without question.
What's your read on Jordan Davis when it comes to the conditioning? Like, obviously he wants to be in shape, but that always hasn't maybe been to the level he's desired. Like, what's your sense of maybe what he was fighting through, why he's better now, those kind of things?
I wasn't here for, the previous two. I can only speak to what I've seen right now. And it's just a lot of it for him is just pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. You're at what you think is your limit, and then take it another step, and then do it another time and do it again and again and again, because you're building mental toughness along the way. You never know what you have in your body until you push yourself to your limits. And that's the part that I'm challenging him on right now, and really the whole group, but especially him, because the longer he can play, he can be on the field, he can do some things for us to help us be successful. But that's the big part. It's just been the conditioning, and he's been all over it, like just challenging him every day, pushing him every day. He asked for it. I told him, you asked for it, you're going to get it. So, and he's been all over it, so I've been proud of that part. And it's still a process. It's a journey. We got a long way to go before we line up for Green Bay and Brazil.
People talk about the value of nose tackles in Vic Fangio's system specifically. I guess how important is that role to the way that you guys want to play?
Very. I mean, they're in a lot of situations where if they're one-on-ones, they should make tackles and be highly productive. And if not, then, they're commanded to, and they make the job of those that play around them a lot easier. So it's critical. And the foundation of any great defense is going to start on the interior. That's where it starts. You build from the inside out. And obviously that's where we're at with these young guys and the depth that we have in this room. So, yeah, it's very important for both guys, not just the nose.
Toughness that you refer to with Jordan, can that be taught, or is that self-motivated? And are you seeing it from him?
Combination of both. Some guys are just naturally wired that way. Other guys, they have it in them, but they have no idea they have it in them. I think it's in today's generation of ball, not to try to outdate myself, but you got to push on guys. You got to push them. You got to grind them, and it's just different how the rules have acclimated. There's less two-a-days in high school. There's less two-a-days in college of ways to try to tax and and challenge players, and not just physically, but from a mental standpoint. So yeah, does he have it? Yes. And I think it's one of those things that the answer to your question is yes. It can be taught, and some of it is inherent, where it's in there and the guy has it naturally in him. So, but it's still a skill that has to be sharpened all the time.
Faced this Eagles offense last year from the Seattle sideline. What were your takeaways after that game of that offense, and what changes have you seen in this unit, seen them up close now with Benjamin Feed?
Very dynamic and explosive offense. It was sleepless nights because you got to get ready to defend so many talented, skilled guys and the quarterback and obviously a great offensive line. So in preparation for that game, I just remember it's like, okay, most games you go and you say, okay, we're going to take away one guy and just let somebody else beat us. You can't do that. With this unit here, there's so many guys that are so gifted with the ball in their hands. So obviously tough, hard-fought game and ton of respect, but just watching the offense as it's come along, the practices and all have been very competitive and spirited, and you see all the talent that's flourishing out there. So it's been special.
Coach, how's your perspective different after those years as a coordinator?
I would say that, it's just putting the whole thing together is obviously is something that's really cool. It's a lot, but, that's the part about it that I love. And even though I'm back to being a position coach now, I still want to keep that hat on in terms of seeing the whole thing come through and spending my time with Vic and, all the different ideas and ways of trying to do different things schematically. But I would say is just having a greater appreciation for even like a D-line's always been my background, but for the appreciation for the guys on the second and third levels of the defense and find ways to make some things a little bit easier on them as well. So, no, you're good.
Okay. You come into a room where they're undergoing a transition at the top with Fletcher leaving an important veteran. What, if anything, do you feel like you have to do differently as a coach?
I would say it's just from the leadership standpoint. Generally, if you have a veteran guy in the room that's been around a long time, it's the time away from the facility or it's the time in the locker room where a coach is not present is where the veterans really come in and help out with a lot of those things. And I love the situation that we have right now. Like I said, Fletcher's always going to be missed. You don't replace a guy like that at all. It's not possible. But to be able to help these guys in the bigger picture of how to take care of your body, getting plenty of rest, how to prepare like with your film study throughout the course of the week and all those things. It's been really refreshing because, like I said, this is the youngest group I've ever had a chance to be a part of and be impactful. And again, Fletcher's still around too and BG. So like when they have questions or whatnot, and if I ever felt like, hey, I can lean on Fletcher or something, I know I can call him and he'll be available to these guys. But it's been great and they've been an excellent group to coach.
Why do you like coaching for and with Vic?
Why do I like coaching for with him? Similar personality-wise with being direct and to the point and blunt. I like people like that. I don't like to beat around the bush. Even if it's a painful answer, you're just going to get the truth. And if you like it, great. If you don't, we'll work it out or it is what it is.
You mentioned a little bit about more modern-day players. You hear that maybe some of them aren't very good with getting feedback that is very direct. How have you found that's been handled here with the young players?
I don't know how. I can't speak to like the past. I can only speak to my experience. I think it's all in the delivery of how you are direct with the message. If it's demeaning, degrading, and all those kinds of things, anybody's going to take that personal. I don't care if you're talking to somebody who's 60 or they're 16. It's not going to be well received. But there's a way to handle those things. And you don't to be direct, but be positive in your reinforcement because there's a side that you have to correct, but you can also show and reinforce like, hey, you know how to do this, you've done this correctly before, and you build and you go from there.
Appreciation for the second and third level. After being coordinator before it, did you said make it easier on them? Was there something as a defensive line coach that you realized afterward that helps make it easier?
There's a lot of different things, and so to speak, whether it comes to rushing coverage and all those types of things, but just finding, whether it be a group or a player or whatever, just giving all the necessary tools and things within what you need to get done to try to take some pressure off certain guys from time to time. That's all just part of the learning process, that's all.
What's your perspective on a heavy rotation or kind of heavy playing time for your top guys?
Right now, a lot of that goes off the flow of the football game. Again, there's so many different dynamics that happen throughout, whether how long a drive may be or injuries and things of that nature. So, like I said, I want everyone in prime condition where, if we call your number and you have to play a significant amount of snaps, then you're ready to go. Ideally, if you don't have to do that, there's just so many variables. But having everybody ready to go and having quality depth, which I believe we have, is important.
You mentioned that youth and kind of your messaging. Does that change with more experienced players in your experience, or do you try to handle it the same way?
No, you want to be consistent with how you deliver messages. But yeah, I mean, if you deal with a veteran, established player, you do those things a little bit differently than you do a young guy. That's only natural. I wouldn't. As an example, when I was in Seattle, I'm not going to have a conversation with Bobby Wagner the same I'm going to have with a rookie. And he hadn't got enough stripes on the wall yet, so it's a little different.
When we asked Jordan about Noah Fletch, he said, look, nobody's coming to save us. And that was kind of his messaging. He said that multiple times in terms of that position group. Has that been your messaging? Like, look, nobody's coming to save you. You're going to have to figure it out.
No, because it makes it come across like you're in trouble. There's nothing in trouble. Not at all. So I wouldn't use that messaging exactly. It's just what happens is when you have an all-time great player like Fletch and a great leader and he does everything right, they have a presence and an aura about them that is very difficult to even imagine somebody stepping into that role. And for a young guy, there's a comfort zone when you have somebody like that in the building and in your room in particular. So, they can really lean on that guy. But now, obviously, with him being there, now it falls on their shoulders to start to take that role. And so it's not about saving. It's just like, okay, we got to step into this, and they do it collectively. I would say, and I've said this to Jordan, and I've said this to Jalen and Milton, all those guys, they all collectively can do it together. It shouldn't fall on one individual's shoulders. So.
For you to be Jeff Stoutland's counterpart?
Repeat that question one more time.
What will it be like for you to be Jeff Stoutland's counterpart?
I look forward to it. I love Stout, so we've had a lot of battles in our days, so it'll be a lot of fun. Competitive challenges and collaborating and talking just ball like we used to do all the time, so it'll be fun.
All right, thanks,
All right.
Clint.
Thank you, guys.
Coach, when Howie Roseman drafted Quinyon Mitchell, he talked about how he wanted him to basically live with Darius Slay. Well, I don't think that exactly has happened. How have you seen him maybe take Quinyon Mitchell under his wing?
Yeah, well, Slay's a great mentor. He always is trying to, share his knowledge of the game and things on and off the field with the guys. And I think that, Q especially, he wants to be a sponge. He's more of a reserved personality, but he's always trying to get more knowledge. So, whether it's from Slay or any other veteran in the room, they definitely have a good relationship in terms of kind of being a, mentor-mentee type of thing and trying to grasp as much knowledge as he can.
The secondary was obviously a weakness. A lot of yards, touchdowns given up last year. When you watch the film, what makes you think that you can help improve this defense in 2024?
Well, I think we have good players. I think it starts there. I think that when you have talent on the field, in the secondary, there's positions that, the other guys on the field might not matter in certain 50-50 situations down there. So we just got to keep improving, our technique and schematic knowledge. But I think that we have the players to do so, and I think they're motivated and hungry to do so as well.
What do you think the biggest threat is in the passing game, NFL-wise, what you're going to face in 2024?
I'm not sure I really understand that question, really.
In terms of overseeing the passing game, what do you think major threats are that?
Oh, just overall around the league?
That you're gonna see.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team has a multitude of weapons to pick from, and the quarterbacks are very talented. So I think that obviously the jet motion's in vogue now, crossing routes, things like that. A lot of teams are going to isolate you in different ways to get their best player the ball. So we have to be able to counter that with schematics and then with technique as well, and being situationally aware to kind of make sure that we can erase things before the ball is snapped to give ourselves an advantage. But I think offenses, it's always going to be some new, in vogue concept or principle that offenses are doing each year, and we just have to, make sure that we're staying up on those things and we have rules to defend it.
What's the best way or best spot to maximize Cooper Newton's skill set?
Interesting question. I think Coop is very he's very versatile. I think he plays with good vision to the ball. I think that he has good ball skills. So we're kind of in that process now. We've moved him around a little bit. He can handle it mentally. And I think as we move on through this phase right now and going into training camp, then he'll have a home. But he's playing corner, he's playing nickel. He's handling those things well, and we'll continue to put more on his plate and see how he handles it.
Along those lines, it seems like you have a few players who have some position versatility. Does that help even in game to be able to move guys around?
It does, because at the end of the day, you want to get your best 11 on the field. So whatever combination we can put together with guys that understand their job, whether it be a corner to nickel or a nickel to safety or the dime position, what have you, the more guys you know that have an overall knowledge of what we're doing, then the better you can be, because we can change from a package perspective, personnel-wise, down to down, and then we can also kind of move different pieces around based off the opponent we're playing each week.
How much have you gotten to see James Bradbury this spring, and where do you think he is mentally coming off what everyone has deemed a difficult season?
I've seen him a good amount. And even a couple of days that he hasn't been here, he's communicated. We've talked on Zoom or on the phone. I think he's very motivated. James is a real professional. He's played in this league long enough that he understands what comes with playing the corner position in the NFL. So he's had a great mentality. He's worked hard. He's learning the defense just like everybody else, and we're looking forward to seeing what he does this year.
What do you like about coaching for Vic and his scheme? What sort of your philosophy with that?
Yeah, I think me and him see the game very similar, just in terms of limiting explosive plays and having different ways that the defense looks the same, but it can be different. The illusion of being complex, down in and down out, and I think that's something I believe in with him. He allows his coaches to coach, and so he has a very he's been a coordinator so long that he has such a good understanding of what he does, and he knows what the offenses are going to do to counter it. And so the year I spent with him in 2021 in Denver, I learned a great deal, and it was important for me to, kind of continue that education for myself.
Back to Zach's question about Cooper. Do you ever worry, especially with a guy so young, about overloading him? Because it is a variety of positions, and how do you keep him playing fast and, free?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing is you don't want to take advantage of an intelligent football player because you do want him to play fast. So we're never going to put him in a situation where he has to learn a million jobs and he can't be really good at one. So really, you're playing multiple positions, quote unquote, but really the job descriptions are very similar down in and down out depending on what we're doing. So it's really simple for him, and he has a really good football mind. Some of the concepts that we run are similar to what he did at Iowa. So in terms of being new learning, it's really just learning the new terminology more so than a lot of the technical development we have to do.
Positional versatility. You mentioned nickel to safety. Avonte Maddox is a guy who we saw playing some safety when practice was open for us. What do you like about him as a safety, and is his size a concern there?
Yeah, Avonte has, number one, he's played a lot of football, and he's played in different schemes from Jim Schwartz to Gannon to decide last year to now this. And so he sees the game very well. And I think that his movement skills, give you kind of a plus coverage guy back there. So there are a lot of jobs that are similar between the nickel and safety position depending on coverage. And then even the jobs that aren't similar, the safety's depending on the nickel to do something. So when you've been down there, you kind of see it from a different frame of mind. So he's very welcoming to that. He wants to be a versatile player and help us in that regard, and he's done a good job.
What did you make of Quignon's technique and handling as you first got a chance to see him in the offseason and leading up to the season? Where does he need to get to?
What do I think about his technique, you said?
As a cornerback, multiple techniques, how much is in his arsenal there, and how much do you think there is to go before the season in development?
Yeah, I think it was actually kind of unique. I was talking to Coop and Q about this last week. They're very unique because they both had the same college coordinator their whole college career, which is pretty rare to have two players come in like that. And so a lot of the things that we're asking Q to do are different, Coop as well. From a technical standpoint, but I think that he has the movement in his body to learn those. So we're still kind of just working each and every day, kind of focusing on one thing each practice. Let's get better at off today. Let's get better at press today. Let's focus on, lead position and keep maintaining our cushion today, whatever that may be. And he's doing a really good job just grasping those. And, he watches a lot of film. And again, going back to the first question, he's always trying to learn from his vets. He always has questions. So I'm looking forward to his development.
What did you expect from Isaiah Rodgers and seeing him on the field? How has those expectations been either adjusted, fortified, changed, whatever it may be?
Yeah, well, the first thing we were trying to figure out, when we were going to be able to, get our hands on him. I remember when we were getting ready to play the Raiders 2 years ago, and he had a really good play on a comeback against Devontae Adams when we were about to play them. And so I noticed his movement. I didn't really know who he was. I kind of researched him a little bit. So we really feel good about just his long speed and his short area quickness. And he's been as advertised so far. We've still got a long way to go, of course. But he's very hungry and grateful for this opportunity, getting the game taken away from you and then coming back and having an opportunity like this. He's very grateful for it. and you can kind of see it in his everyday demeanor. So I'm looking forward to keep working with him.
We'll do a couple more.
When you talk about limiting explosive plays, how much of that is relying on two deep safety looks?
I think you can get to it a bunch of different ways. I think that you can do that in a single safety defense just with really good technique. I think you do that with situational awareness and understanding that we don't need to take away every single play in an offensive playbook and play things honest. Obviously, the too high structure is going to be intertwined in that and what we believe philosophically, but we're not going to be off and soft all the time and just giving up free access. There's different ways that you can manipulate the quarterback and the offense to, make them go and earn each and every yard that they get, each and every down, and that's what we intend to do.
Outside over his career.
Can you restart that?
Rodgers is mostly played outside over his career. A couple practices we saw he was out there, but his size, you mentioned the short area quickness, kind of lends skill sets to nickel. Where do you see him? Do you think he can kind of make saves both places?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're just kind of, we're in the educational phase of what we're doing. So he's only been outside. As we kind of move on, if he's a guy who we want to kind of give that transition to, you only have so many reps in the offseason. So for him, it's really just maximizing his primary position right now. And then as we move forward, we'll kind of, see what else expresses itself.
Versatility. How about CJ
We'll get to both you guys, and then we'll bring in Bobby, all right?
CJ Gardner-Johnson, his versatility. We talked about Cooper DeJeans. What do you see from CJ? How do you think he might be deployed this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he, he's definitely started a lot of games at multiple spots. He's been able to impact the ball at multiple spots as well. So I think, for CD right now, he's at safety. We know he has the ability to play other positions too. And, kind of as we gradually move forward, we'll kind of figure that out. With the safety position in this defense, it's demanding from a communication standpoint. So really that's the primary job, and then we kind of get to the secondary job after that.
Sort of to follow up on that, you have Roy coaching quarterbacks, Joe coaching safeties. When you have versatile guys, how does that teaching, how does that education morph over? How do you guys sort of handle that?
Yeah, well, I think, we meet together. And we start individual together before we kind of disperse in different technical development. I think it's important that, guys understand, Darius Slay is hearing what Reed Blankenship is getting coached on. Isaiah Rodgers is hearing what we're telling Tyler Hall at nickel, what have you. So those guys understand the difference in the job descriptions and where their help is and where it isn't. So I think it's important that when you're kind of building that versatility, and also first and foremost, it's the primary job. Like, what do you do best? So getting that straight first and then kind of getting the versatility off of that. When you have a room that's together like that, guys understand the big picture, and that's something we're big on, is the why behind each call and how we want it to express itself. So when you all are together like that and you're able to kind of touch and go in different assets, it helps with the development of the defense overall.
How's everybody doing?
What's up, man?
Good. What is this thing? Timer? Okay. Go ahead, shoot. Here we go. How's
You're on the
everybody
clock. What's been your initial reaction, initial thoughts of seeing Devin White in practice right now so far?
It's been good. He's an explosive player. I've from afar over the 5 years of his career, I've been a fan of his. He's been a productive player, and so far so good with Devin.
Juan's been a guy who has come in, and Vic was talking about moving him to inside linebacker. Doesn't have a whole lot of defensive snap time when he was in New Orleans. What do you see from him so far coming in here early?
All good. I had a relationship a little bit with Zach coming out from Wisconsin, and he's a good football player. He's a kind of a Swiss Army knife, can play anywhere, and he's done a good job so far.
Why do you guys see him more as an inside guy than an outside guy, which is what Vic has said?
Well, right now it's passing camp. It's everybody's in pajamas, so just trying to, to utilize the best we can do with him right now and get the coverage work and see if he can do it. So far, so good.
Kobe, you just got him back a little bit on the field, but when he's healthy, is there anything you've sort of ascertained about his ability to play that Mike position?
Good football player in college. Loved him coming out. So far, so good with Nakobe also. Just working his way back in, like you said. So,
do you want those two positions to be pretty?
And he's told us how much he never had him before. He got in high school, college. So have you had to help him through that mentally? Because it seems like he's chomping a bit whenever you talk to him.
Yeah, it's something that just, he just got to be out there and that's more so for the medical staff, but, he just got to stay healthy and he'll do fine. So, yeah, we've had those talks, but just got to stay on the field.
You want those positions at linebacker to kind of be interchangeable, and do you plan on kind of mixing and matching throughout the summer?
Yeah, either linebacker spot, you can, yes, they are interchangeable, and we expect, once we learn the system to be able to do both.
What's Trotter Jr., I'm sorry, how has he stood out in the few weeks you've had him?
He's a smart guy. He's one of those type of players that doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's fun to coach. I'm excited for him to get the pads on.
In his time in Tampa, what did you see last year in terms of how what he needs to improve on, recover from? What have you kind of started off with him here?
Yeah, I'm not really worried about last year. When I watch the tape, obviously I liked him because he's here. So, I still think, all of us can get better, and he's going to have, he's going to get better this year also, as we all will.
You mentioned Vaughn, you're familiar with him from Wisconsin. How did that relationship, how do you know him?
I was actually scouting him in 2020, and we were out to dinner and got the phone call that everything was shutting down. So I basically had to say, all right, man, I'm out. So, but yeah, he was, when I was with the Texans, we were scouting him. I was out there working him out.
Like Jacoby coming out of college, what was it like?
Good football player. Yeah, he was on a good team, good football player, the signal caller. He was the captain of that defense. Yeah.
With Devin, when things don't go the way you want, can you see a refocus from him? Because I think he said that he thought he was going to get a big contract and Tampa didn't happen, and now he's in another chapter in his career.
Yeah, I can't speak on anything before, but so far he's been a pleasure to be around. He's coachable. He wants to get better. He's eager to learn, and I'm excited to work with him. Another guy that the whole room cannot wait to get the pads on.
How well did you get to know Nick when he was the quarterback's coach 10 years ago? How's he different now?
Very well. He's a family man. He's high energy, holds players accountable. Our families got to know each other, so yeah, we knew each other very well. Worked together for 3 years.
And did you have any connection to Vic outside of just the team?
No, didn't know Vic. Obviously, from afar, have always respected his defenses and always wanted to work with him. But no, didn't have much of a connection with Vic before.
How'd you end up here?
How did I end up here? Head coach called me, and it was interviewed and got the job.
There wasn't any other connection to the team or anybody else?
Knew the head coach. That was it. Yep.
What has it been like working now with Vic?
Awesome. Cannot state it enough that you're learning a whole new system, and it's been great. I'm learning every day, just like the players, and he's a Hall of Fame signal caller, and I've just been blessed to learn from him and grow as a coach. Everything, and I'm learning every day, and he's coached from the 1980s on, some of the best players to ever do it. So obviously, I'm always just want to hear the old stories. I'm a historian, and I love the history of the game, and Vic's got a lot of history.
You've had a number of guys, including Zach Cunningham, who've had career best years in terms of tackles and things like that. What do you attribute that part of your coaching to their success?
Well, it starts with the players. It doesn't start with me. Obviously good players, and you just want to help build their confidence and teach them the fundamentals that I believe in. Teach them the toughness, how to use their hands, and that's about it.
Linebacker, if you're talking about the history of the game, who are some of your favorites?
Favorite linebacker in the history of the game? Well, I'm a Butkus guy. I like Lambert, Ray Lewis. Obviously, I like Lawrence Taylor. It's probably not a good thing to say around here. Yeah.
And with history, all positions have changed for linebacker, particularly over the years. What is it that you've noticed most about that transition in history and how you approach it now today?
Just the way the offenses attack you. It's more spread out. You got to be able to run. You got to, to be a 3-down guy, you got to be able to run and blitz and cover and, still whoop somebody's butt also.
Trotter, somebody has history here, obviously, with his dad. Rookie, what's your approach for rookies? How has he looked to you, just starting out here?
he's been really, really good. You know, he came in as, the rookie mini camp and obviously the system brand new to him and came in and did a nice job. And he's, like I said before, he's one of those players that doesn't make the same mistake twice. And he's just all ears right now, learning every day.
What does a Butkus of today look like?
A Butkus of today, man, he'd be fined a lot of money. I don't know if there's anybody like that right now in the league.
What's the the number one skill set that a linebacker has to have in Fangio's system in order to be successful?
Just versatile, being able to do a lot of things well. Got to be able to cover. You got to be able to play the run. Got to be smart, and then probably right up there. You got to be tough. Got to be tough.
What's the best story you've gotten out of Vic?
Well, out of Vic?
Story, yeah.
Ooh, there's so many. Come back to me on that some other time.
You mentioned watching Vic from afar.
Go ahead.
And a lot of people have copied his scheme.
Can you repeat from the beginning?
Watching Vic from afar, you mentioned, and liking what he did. Was there something specific when you looked at his defense and said, I like that?
When I got in the league, probably he was with San Francisco, and that was a few years into it, and they were just dominant. They were really, really good defense, and studied them and played the run well, and they were really, really good, and just admired them from afar.
Circling back to Nick's area, the perspective is obviously different as a fellow assistant compared to a head coach. What has stood out to you about him as a head coach compared to when you knew him back then as a position coach?
He's energetic. He's a football historian also. I mean, you ask him anything. I mean, he's always studying the game. He appreciates the pass. I mean, I think that's a lost art with even people my age. I'm getting up there too, but guys my age don't even know the history. It's embarrassing. But he appreciates the history of the game. Guys that laid the groundwork for us. But he's energetic. He's going to bring it every day, and he holds guys accountable. He doesn't care. He doesn't mind hurting feelings, and I appreciate that with him. And he's consistent every day.
The last primarily part of your career has been in Texas, in the South.
Yep.
The transition like has been coming to Philly.
It's been different. Can't wait to move in my house here in about 2 weeks. So that'll be exciting. Get the family up here. I've been by myself now for 3 months, and everybody here has welcomed me with open arms, and I'm excited to be up here and do some things.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
How's it going? Good afternoon.
Welcome to Philly.
Thank you very much.
So what's your approach when you get a new quarterback who's sort of proven himself with Jalen Hurts?
Could you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the
Just your sort of initial approach when you take over the new position with a proven player.
Well, I think, the first thing is it's, trying to get a little background from the player themselves. You get a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different people, but, like anything else in life, when you go into something new, you go in with an open mind and you try and learn and take in information as well as have opinions on certain things.
He's had so many different coordinators and position coaches since his rookie year. How do you kind of navigate through that? And he's so many different language, all that stuff, and kind of get through that and get past that.
Well, give him a lot of credit to have the success he's had, early in his career playing, in different systems with different coaches. That's not easy to do. So I think, me coming in new, trying to learn Jalen, what he knows, how he's been taught. I think that's a big part. It's a collaborative thing here. It's like anything else. I think you make a mistake if you just say, well, this is exactly the way it's done. You have to learn some of the background so that we can grow forward. And that's kind of what we've been focusing on, since I've gotten here.
What do you learn best about him in terms of teaching him?
Go ahead, one second.
What do you learn most about Jalen in terms of how to relate to him?
Well, I think that, the one thing that's impressed me, about him is, and I'd heard this before, but extremely hard worker, very diligent in how he prepares. It's important for him to understand the details of everything we're doing. He's going to ask all the right questions. It's really been a fun process to date.
And with Kellen, whenever you talk about this, the word he used the most was probably clean operation in terms of getting something to Jalen and quarterbacks particularly. What do you see in that importance, and how do you approach that, especially now?
A little bit. I think when you talk about clean, we talk about procedures and how we do things, and it starts with communication. The communication from Kellen to the quarterback, from the quarterback to the offense, and then there's pre and post snap communication that goes on in every snap. So trying to keep that concise, try and keep it direct, so that you don't have miscommunication, because obviously miscommunication can create big problems for you.
Said you tried getting him to come to Florida probably 10 years ago now or so. What stood out to you about him then that I guess had differentiated him, or that stood out among all those teenage quarterbacks?
Well, you guys haven't seen us run all the extra gassers out there yet, have you? I'm still getting back at him for all those trips I took to Houston, and then had to come back and tell the head coach I struck out. So no. Listen, it was interesting going to his high school. Obviously, he played for his father, and going there, I'll never forget it, because I go there to see this kid and watched him on tape, and was impressed, very impressed with his tape, and get there, and you're thinking Texas high school football, and I walk out there, and he's the biggest guy on the field, and really, from that point, a lot of respect for him, because their team hadn't had a ton of success, and here was a guy that basically had taken the team to the playoffs, which, I believe they were 5A, which is the second to highest level, which is, really, really good high school football. And, just a lot of admiration for him and the type of player that he was. And obviously, when you talk to the other coaches in the area, when you're out recruiting, they all had a tremendous amount of respect for the way he played the game.
How is Jalen and maybe the offense too, picking up the process, picking up this new scheme that you guys are bringing in?
Well, it's a growth. It's growth for all of us, and obviously, Kellen and I coming here, and then the existing coaches that are here, and the offense that was in place, then some of the things that we've done in the past. So just like you do every year, you go back and you look at, hey, what did you do well? What did you not do well? What do you want to keep? What do you want to grow? What's some new concepts maybe that are showing up across the league that, hey, they fit our personnel well. So every day, has been growth. Obviously, it's all new. So we've got a lot of work to do between now and when we open the season.
What do you like most about working? With Kellen? You've obviously worked several different places. What do you like most about him, and why do you think he's had so much success at such a young age?
Well, he's an extremely smart guy. He really is. He's bright. Talk about a guy that, when he played, you watch the way he played the game. Very cerebral in his approach, and the success that he had at Boise, and that's carried over to his coaching career. I think he's had some exposure to some really good coaches, and just the way he can look at things and dissect them, and then not only take that situation, but look at, okay, here's how I'm going to handle this that will grow us to this offensively, and if I do this, then we can build this and this off of it. He's just got a great football mind. He's a great guy, and just enjoyed every step of the way with him.
The way that you can, how do you equip quarterbacks in terms of being able to see pressure, identifying those things, solving problems?
Well, it's got to start with communication. I talked a little bit about the whole offense and the communication, and that's a little bit of the process we're in now as we build the structure of this offense. And okay, you have to have an origin, and then you build off of it, and you go to this, and you go to that. So you have to have, at some point in time, you've got to get to where there's communication, and there's a clear snap point. We got to make a decision on where we're going. So as we work through and you install protections, you give the quarterbacks the parameters of those protections, and here's your toolbox and what you can use. And then, they have to take it on, and once they go out in the field, it's theirs.
For a short list for quarterbacks in terms of checks, or a long list?
Well, I think that, you're going to have different things by different situations. Some games will carry more checks than others. Some we might not have hardly any. A lot of it's dictated on what the game plan is, how you're approaching that individual opponent, maybe what we're going to do to them or what they're capable of doing that either dictates, hey, you go heavy with them or you go light with them.
Any of those checks and protections?
In your past 4 years, you've had to turn to your backup quarterback for meaningful snaps. What did you look for in that role this offseason that made Kenny a guy for you?
Well, excited to have Kenny here, and obviously it's been a really good experience, first couple months here together, and really had a lot of respect for him as he came out of the draft. Was a guy that had a lot of production there at Pittsburgh, and Obviously went on, now with the Steelers and now with us. So excited about Kenny and what he brings. Yes, last 2 years, we've played with backup quarterbacks. I think that's a real part of this league. It's a physical game, and it's hard to keep a guy healthy, for 17 straight weeks. So we value the backup quarterback position, and we're going to invest in Kenny and Tanner and Will and get ready to go.
How do you handle corrections and coaching a quarterback up hard?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
How do you handle corrections with a quarterback and coaching him hard?
I don't know. What do you mean by coaching him hard?
Calling out his mistakes and whether he agrees with it or not, and being very blunt about it if you have to be.
Yeah, I think, every play that we have, we assess and we evaluate. And I like to coach in a positive demeanor. I think that you look at every play, and there's no quarterback that's ever played a perfect game. And I've been fortunate to work with a bunch of great ones throughout my career, guys that I consider great in their own individual ways. And the one thing that I've learned is the guys that do really good at this position, and most of the guys that play in this league, they're self-driven. You're never going to be more critical of them than they are themselves. But you have those discussions. You go through the corrections, and hey, you can do this better. And this we did wrong. We've got to get this corrected. So there's always that that goes on with every practice, and it's darn near almost every play. So that's something we spend a lot of time on. Obviously, it's a lot of what we do in our meetings.
Is it almost a concerted effort on your part to be the positive side of it?
No, I think every player's individual, and you coach every player differently. I don't know that one cookie cutter way to coach the position works. I think that just like anything else, people are different. Every one of our players has a different personality, a different way that they carry themselves. Some guys are harder on themselves than others. Some guys need more positive reinforcement. Some guys need to be directly told, you did that wrong, you can't do that again. So each individual player, there's a relationship there, and there's a way we coach. We coach to a standard in our room, and all our players understand the standard. Yet every one of them get coached a little bit differently.
How would you describe?
How do you see Jalen? Like, what have you learned about how Jalen needs to be coached?
Jalen is, like I said before, he comes in every day and is very focused, very driven. He wants to have all the answers. So he spends a lot of time. We spend a lot of time talking about the intricacies. And like I say, it's early, so we're still evolving and developing a lot of things. So, just impressed by the way he wants to have all the answers.
How would you describe Jalen's leadership style? You've been around a lot of quarterbacks. How would you describe his style?
Jalen's Jalen. And look at all the quarterbacks around the league. They're their own individual person, and each guy leads differently. Each guy carries himself differently. So Jalen's Jalen, and happy to be here to work with him.
Part of actually been around to a varying degree that been able to run to. Jalen, what is it specific to him that you see that in his strength and how you might be able to use that?
Well, I mean, we all know Jalen's a very athletic quarterback, and I think one of the things when you coach athletic quarterbacks is you never want to take away that natural athletic ability that they have. Some guys are built to stay in the pocket and be only pocket passers. Jalen's a guy that has the ability to extend plays, and you talk about the league, and everybody's always looking at how do we extend plays and how can you get plays above the 2.3, when you can break the defense down. So you never want to take that away. You want to coach to it. And then there's the part of, being smart once the quarterback does extend plays and taking care of their body so that they have longevity.
You've been part of the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry now for a few years. Is there any moments that stood out while being on the visiting sideline and what it was like to adjust now being on the opposite side?
There's a lot of them. Obviously, it's a great rivalry. I'm glad I'm in the green and black now, so to say. But no, it's a special game. Always looked forward to those games when I was in Dallas, and now really look forward to them being on this side of it.
You have that extensive history with Kellen. You're coming in with a head coach who's got an offensive background as well. How is that meshing between you and Kellen and Nick? How has that gone so far?
It's been great. I think, like I said, it's been a really fun process because there were so many good things that were done here offensively last season, and then looking at some of the things that we've done in the past. And so you get these, we get everybody in the room, and hey, and Kel and I are asking questions. How did you guys do that? Talk us through the way you did that. And they're asking, hey, how you guys did this, and we're really good at it. How did you do that? So you almost get these mini type clinics like you do when you talk to your, your friends around the league. It's like, hey, how are you guys doing that? That's a really good concept. I really like that. Okay, and then, the challenge is then you got to bring it all back together and you got to bring the language in and all that so that it all fits.
You mentioned extending plays with the wide receiver core that you have, and Jalen, what do you make where Jalen is once you extend plays in with the offensive weapons that are there? How do you view just that extension in totality?
Well, in the passing game, to us, when you talk about the passing game, you have the, in-phase passing game where there's a progression where the quarterback's going bang to bang to bang. And hopefully we're getting wins from the wideouts there, and the ball's coming out on time to this part of the progression. And those are well defined. But then, defenses in this league are good and they're going to cover you sometimes. So then it's everybody, and we train it. What we call the scramble phase is where we're going to the next phase and where ideally we'd like the quarterback to get out and where we'd like the receiver placement to be. And then, and then you go to the third down situations when people drop 8 on you. And now you're not going to have receivers necessarily open in the timing and rhythm of the progression of plays. And everybody's got to understand that we've got to work to the next phase. So there's, as it may look at times, there's chaos, but hopefully we're educating our guys and we're playing with structured chaos above the 2.3.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood or misheard you, that Jalen talks about the way last year ended. You said something about the way last year ended. Somebody else was asking a question at the same time, but does he talk? I mean, I know you weren't here last year, but can you tell how much, and he's talked to us about it, but can you tell how much it drives him and how much the way last year ended kind of stuck with him and motivates him?
I can't speak to last year, but that was alluded to earlier, when I recruited him in high school. This guy's been ultra driven since the first time I met him. And, you look at his career and the things he, did post high school through college and then here in Philadelphia. He's a very driven individual.
That's one thing. 2.3 twice. What's kind of the?
Well, you get to thresholds, whatever your threshold may be, as some people would say 2.3. Some people would use other terms as far as, when you look at a natural time clock of passing plays and what happens and when do they break down?
So that's your.
No, not necessarily mine, but that's a number you'll hear thrown around a lot. The 2.3 is the number you hear a lot.
Is your number far off?
I don't know. I'll tell you that today. It's only the first time. I can't give you everything on the first time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.